Hi, I'm Brian Sparks, the senior editor of Greenhouse Grower Magazine, and I'm joined today by Mary Beth Cowerden and Megan Nace with AmericanHort, and we're here to talk about all things Cultivate 2023. I know there's a lot going on this year, so want to give all of you who are watching this a sense of what you can expect to see, not just at Cultivate, but in some of the other AmericanHort educational programming moving forward throughout the year. So welcome, Megan and Mary Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Great to be
Sure.
here.
Let's first talk about, I know education is always a big part of the Cultivate program. The process of developing the right educational tracks for that is something that I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into it. So, Megan, can you start by talking about, how the program is developed and what folks can expect to learn when they come this year?
Oh, for sure. We actually start developing the program over a year in advance. So we've already started for our next year, which is really exciting. But one of the things that we've really started focusing in on are those important industry topics, what's needed for the individual segments of the industry, because we know everyone's different. So greenhouse, nursery, retail, and even within that, everyone's business is complex and different too. So we take all of those different complexities, I guess you could say, into account when we're planning out education. And one thing that we found that works really well in terms of finding the right mix and the level of tools and education needed for attendees and for the industry is we've started building off the sessions off of each other. We like to call mini tracks of education, but each session kind of starts with that, here's the basics of what you need to know about a topic. And then the next one goes a little bit deeper, either with added research or, another industry expert who, will take you a little bit more into the weeds, I guess you could say. And then we've been starting to utilize more panels. So rounding out those mini tracks of education with panels of people from across the industry who are doing whatever it is well. So that's kind of our secret sauce going into Cultivate and how we like to build out those programming. That way you're getting that deeper level of knowledge and just the total comprehension across the board to take back to your businesses and help your teams.
Just speaking personally on behalf of myself, I know I really appreciate those panel discussions. It's always such a great discussion that comes out of it, and it's nice because you have the topic coming in, but there's always seems to be things that come up that if one panel starts asking another panelist a question, then you've got all these new ideas that are generated kind of organically. So that's always great to see.
For sure. Yeah. And we've been really working hard over the past 3 years of, getting those panelists to kind of, because everyone's all over in terms of needs and where they are on different levels in businesses. So finding the right panel is key. And it is the biggest challenge that we've faced, especially this year. So we're really excited because I think we got it right. And I think that people are really going to love those panels.
I know on Saturday, July 15th, one of the big focus is on the workshops and the tours. Can you talk about how those can be beneficial and really helping somebody get, in the ground or on the ground experience with what's happening in the industry?
Yeah, Saturday is the big day for all things. And from what our team likes to say, the hands-on experience, that experiential learning that is really key to a lot of people across the board in our industry. So we are visiting all different parts of Ohio this year on the nursery tour. Then we're having a greenhouse production tour and a garden retail tour. So those three options are where attendees get to go visit and learn about different businesses. And all of the information for each of those stops are on the website. I could talk about them all day long because they're all amazing businesses and have all different things to learn from. And then we like to incorporate workshops. So those workshops are really that hands-on experience that you're doing something and learning at the same time. So those also are on the website. And this year, the greenhouse workshop is really focusing on fertility and media. And we are lucky to have such great places here in Central Ohio to visit and Ohio State is opening up their home. I guess you could say their brand new shiny home
Yeah.
to us to experience that new research facility that they have. So that one's going to be really awesome. And then on the retail side of things, we are what we call a traveling workshop. It's little unconventional, I guess you can say, led by some of the industry greats that are going to be taking retailers all over Central Ohio to experience different types of retail businesses, and they'll be kind of workshopping as they go. So that's what the Garden Retail Workshop is going to be.
Okay. Is there a deadline to sign up for either the workshops or the tours?
There is not. However,
Okay.
I know a couple of the tours are selling out pretty quickly. So the sooner the better, honestly, because when you get there to Cultivate, usually there's not any space left unless someone canceled.
Exactly. Mary Beth, if you want to talk about some of the other experiences that folks who are attending Cultivate can expect. I know one of the big things is the Women in Horticulture luncheon that'll take place.
Sure, absolutely, Brian. I mean, I think one of the great things about Cultivate is there's so much going on. That can be a great thing, or sometimes that can be a little overwhelming. But one of our additional experiences that people can register for is the Women in Horticulture Luncheon. It takes place on Monday, July 17th at noon. It is a ticketed event, and we have a delicious lunch planned and a keynote speaker this year. Her name is Marlene Ike. She's a consultant and a trainer. She's got a lot of energy, very easy to listen to because she's just got a great message and a lot of energy. But she's going to talk about how we show up for people, whether it's people in our personal life or our colleagues at work. Share some experiences, some major goals she's had, and what her experience has been as she's tried to achieve those things. And also kind of share some of John Maxwell, a leadership expert, his 5 key leadership principles. That she is a John Maxwell speaker. She also has her master's degree from the University of Florida that specializes in leadership development. So she's just a really dynamic woman who's going to be our keynote. This event is just one that's grown over the past couple of years, and it's thanks to support from our media partners like Meister Media. Thank you so much, and also our sponsors, Syngenta Flowers and Spring Meadows. So we love this program. It's a great time to learn something new, to get inspired, and to meet some other great women in the industry. But I want to be clear, it's not just for women. Men are invited and encouraged to attend too. So please sign up and get your ticket. You can sign up for that as you register for Cultivate. If you've already registered, you can go in and adjust your registration. We do have a deadline for this of July 10th, and that's simply because we need to know how many lunches to prepare. But
Sure.
The Women in Horticulture program keeps growing, started through various interviews with women in the industry. This year, we've been able to add a couple skill-focused programs. We had one in April on negotiations, and we have one coming up in September on how to sell your ideas. So you can learn more about that at Cultivate as well. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the trade show aspect of it. There are over 650 exhibitors who come to showcase their latest new products, their new plant varieties. And it's just an important time for people to come and conduct business, meet current customers and current business partners, hopefully make a lot of new ones if you have some new needs. So there's just a lot going on at Cultivate. It's a great time to network, to learn about new industry trends, and to help train your team and foster professional development within your team.
It's always nice when somebody says that they go to an event like Cultivate, and sometimes the biggest take homes that they have aren't necessarily from the education or from talking to somebody at a trade show booth, although that's certainly very critical. It's having those conversations when you run into somebody in the hallway or just grabbing lunch out on the trade show floor. Those are always really valuable discussions.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Now, I know that AmericanHort is putting together a webinar at the end of this month to kind of talk about how you can plan for Cultivate. Can you talk about what's going to be part of the agenda for that?
Absolutely.
Sure. I I can take that one. Mary Beth, chime in. This one is going to be a lot in a small amount of time, because we know Cultivate is a lot in a small amount of time too. So we're leveraging the industry insider program that we do to include a panel of people from all over the industry who are experts in Cultivate pretty much. Some have been coming to Cultivate for over 30 years. So we're looking at, and they're going to help us kind of sort through and help new attendees, or even those who've been to Cultivate before, you know, topics on how to choose the right people from your team, how to navigate the trade show floor, how to select the right education sessions for your business, or, you know, how to kind of separate people off and tag team those education sessions, because there are 160 plus of those. And one of the things that I think we'll talk about also a little bit more is how to, you know, navigate and utilize the app in the show planner that we have, which is super, super helpful for, you know, individuals or teams at Cultivate in terms of planning and knowing what's when and where to go. So that, and just how to, as a young professional in the industry, get more involved in, like you said earlier, that those networking opportunities, how to leverage those and what to do even after Cultivate. So it is going to be jam-packed, and there's going to be an opportunity for attendees on the webinar to kind of have those smaller conversations. So we're going to utilize breakouts for each of the panelists. So if there's someone that you want to learn more about, or a specific aspect of Cultivate that you want to dive into as an attendee, you'll have the option to choose which breakout that you go into. So we're really excited about that, and we're really thankful to be able to offer this to people to really help them plan out and have that more.
So a question for both of you then, is there anything else that anybody needs to know about Cultivate this year, or really any of the other American Hort programming that takes place, not just at this event, but throughout the year as well?
Well, let me touch on Cultivate, and then Megan can talk about some things coming up in the fall. But just want to remind everybody, Megan mentioned it, we have a Cultivate app. It's available for both Android and iOS devices. So encourage you to download that. There's information on our website. So if you go to AmericanHort.org/cultivate, there is a page just on the app. Encourage you to download it before you even come to Columbus, because it'll give you a chance to take a browse through the list of exhibitors and all the education sessions. And if you watch our webinar at the end of the month, we'll show you exactly how to set up your show planner. So the app is one thing. And the other thing is we're offering some on-demand education this year as well. So about 35 or so programs that are taking place at Cultivate are going to be recorded on site and then made available starting August 1st. So anyone who buys their Cultivate All Access Pass will get a deep discount to that on-demand education. And for those of you who aren't able to join us this year at Cultivate, well, first of all, we'll certainly miss you. But second, you still can have access to some of the education by purchasing an on-demand pass. And all of that information is on our website, and that content will be available starting August 1st.
So after Cultivate, I know there's a lot of other events taking place in the fall. Megan, can you kind of talk about more about what growers can expect to see this year?
Of course, yeah. I love that Mary Beth talked about the Cultivate on Demand. That's something that is going to be available for a few months going out of Cultivate. But with the need and the focus on the industry, wanting to learn more about retaining employees and what kind of training tools and programs that they need, we're going to kick off a series of education that's definitely geared towards and focused on that, starting with an industry insider panel of those who are doing it well and might be doing a couple unconventional things in terms of training their teams, but it's what works for them. And then that's going to lead into a mastery series that Neil Glatt will be teaching that is all things on how to better build out those training programs and like the internal development for your teams. And then for the rest of the fall, we'll be looking more so focusing on best practices for growers, from new innovations to what research is out there, to, you know, how to better their bottom line in terms of those best practices and efficiencies. And we'll be focusing those programs across the board. So each segment of the industry, greenhouse, nursery, retail, landscape, interior plantscape, we're going to have something for everyone. So that's kind of our extending out Cultivate and those different levels and tiers of learning. That's going to go throughout the entire year of programming. So we're really excited to bring that to everybody.
The last question I'd have for each of you is, you know, just from either a first timer's perspective or somebody who's been coming to Cultivate for a while, what's your top recommendation for when you arrive in Columbus?
Mine would be wear comfortable shoes. That sounds awfully practical. But there's a lot of walking. But in terms of Columbus, there's some really great restaurants. So check out the restaurants down High Street, and join us on Monday evening for Unplugged. That's a pure social event where everybody's invited. It's taking place Monday night at 8 o'clock at Gasworks, which is a bar located very close to the convention center. So those would be my two things. Megan, what do you?
Man, that's hard. I know everyone says to make sure you hit up Jenny's ice cream, but I guess more so from the standpoint of just exploring Columbus, there's so many really great garden centers or growers too, like separate from the tours as well, to kind of leverage and, you know, talk to. But I'm going to go, this is more of like a retail route, but I think that more and more growers are really starting to pay a little bit more attention to that in consumer. Is some of the really great retail and innovative merchandisers are in Columbus. So I'm going to say to go to Easton Town Center, and there is just so many different things to see there, and so much inspiration for businesses, and they also have really great food. So it kind of ties, that's like the one spot, it's not necessarily right downtown, but it is like a 5 to 10 minute drive from, and it is a good experience.
And again, as both of you mentioned, you can learn more about Cultivate and everything else happening at AmericanHort at AmericanHort.org. Definitely encourage you to download the app. It's always a really helpful resource when you're on site and trying to make sure that you're going to the right place and getting to your meetings at the right time. So Mary Beth and Megan, I want to thank both of you for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you both in person in Columbus in about a month from now.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Sure,
thank you.
absolutely.